I've always admired the police. These days it's a bit of a challenge. You don't have to watch too many bad movies to appreciate that more often than not, so many police are corrupt. And that's not just in Los Angeles, Boston, or Detroit. This has been true down through the brutal ages in Rome, Athens, Carthage, Peking, and Manchester. When my son announced at the age of 17 or so that he was thinking of becoming a policeman, I said, "Well, that's great, Sean. I would just have one concern." And he said, "Oh, you're afraid I'll get shot, Dad?" And I said, "No, that's not it at all. The police have an incredibly high incidence of divorce, suicide, drug addiction, alcoholism, and so on. It's a tough gig because you're surrounded by misery all the time. Of late, we've had a mad rash of ugly moments between police and citizens, not only in third world countries and the excited and heavily armed United States, but also right here in boring, old, polite, and apologetic Canada. Some country bumpkin sheriff in Texas pulls a woman over for failing to use the right lane or use a signal when she changes lane. This turns into a major confrontation. She ends up in jail and she hangs herself. Or did she? Who knows? A sheriff who stops a motorcyclist on a petty infraction cannot let the encounter get so out of hand that violence and an arrest and a death follow. That doesn't make any sense. This nightmare comes fast on the heels of what now seems almost a weekly occurrence of a police shooting an unarmed citizen who may or may not have been a jerk or a petty crook. But when did firing a gun become the first response for almost anything? And how about 8 shots in the back for a guy who's running up the street? Here in Vancouver, of course, we've had the shameful incident of Jukansky being tasered by the police and dying of a heart attack. That 2007 atrocity, is it still before the courts? Maybe they found some resolution unsatisfactory, I'm sure. Mentally ill people have been shot and killed by police in British Columbia and in downtown Seattle in recent years. The simple fact is that of the few jurisdictions where police are given some exposure to learning approaches to dealing with mentally ill people, these instructions rarely last longer than a few hours. Here in town, I find it increasingly difficult to even say hello or chat amiably to police officers on the beat or at a coffee shop. You sense that their backs are permanently up. They seem on guard and defended and ready to be unhappy and combative. I get it. It's not an easy job. They're not loved by everybody, and danger lurks. That's real. But is it not possible, while still remaining alert and aware of potential threats, to also be a little bit optimistic and not expect disaster and criminality at every turn? By the way, I say this having several police officers as friends. How else can we explain or move away from innocent citizens being gunned down by the very people who are supposed to be protecting and serving them? Pickle. Policing is not an easy assignment, but reaching for the gun as a default response to almost anything, boy, that isn't helping, is it?